I've had issues with Bethesda's in-house Fallout games for a long time. Be it the linear, boring games for Windows Live demanding Fallout 3, Fallout Let's show the world before the war but only have it be some boomer's bungalow.
Good morning!
Vault-Tec calling!
Vault-Tec? Remind me again?
And now this.
Welcome to Grafton. I bet you weren't expecting a computer to be Grafton's mayor.
Actually, yes, I did expect that. Since I haven't met a human character that wasn't a Russian or a German talking about eBay Kleinanzeigen.
Immer über Kleinanzeigen zu, dass man freikriegt.
Plus Bethesda, you pulled this twist before. And just to cover all bases right now, I expect Todd Howard to be a robot as well.
What were you thinking with this game, Bethesda? It's like playing Viscera cleanup detail. We just mop up everything and deal with the remains after all the action is done. Imagine the opening scene from Skyrim, but the houses are already burned down, there are only skeletons, and a fucking Bioshock audio log falls from the sky of some cunt telling you that there was a dragon.
There was a dragon.
You don't fucking say, mate. That is Fallout76. To a T. Oh look, a shantytown. You expect some cool NPCs to be in a location like this, but no. It's just these knockoffs.
You have disturbed the dirt.
Granted, there are a handful of big locations that are just landmarks, effectively. But even they felt shallow as fuck because there's nothing and nobody to tell an active story. Okay, so we got the fucking bugger 288. Nice to see that RVE managed to sell overseas. But I sure wish that me doing anything here wasn't completely pointless. Fallout 76's world and setting are, in my opinion, one of the biggest underlying insults to the franchise. Because as far as I am concerned, everything from before the Vault Dweller steps out of Vault 13 in 2161 should just be soot and smoke, a mystical time of ash, misery, and nuclear fire, with only the bare remains to remind us of the before times. And even if the time came for us to visit this era, this 13th hour, the image I had come to expect consisted of cold, unforgiving darkness, nuclear winter, clouds and ash, not to mention the true horror of seeing millions dying, if not already dead. Not even from the bombs, but from the much more horrid concept of one thing.
Fallout,
The radioactive dust after a nuclear detonation.
which may occur miles and miles away from the blast. You need to know what it is, how to detect it, and what to do to protect yourself against it. Everybody needs to know.
These should have been the times where what came before, both the infantile 1950s Americana illusion and the seriously corrupt world of the pre-war political elite, were to twist into the rust-brown grime and dark humor that Ron Perlman charmingly introduced us to back in 1997.
In 2 brief hours, most of the planet was reduced to cinders. And from the ashes of nuclear devastation, a new civilization would struggle to arise. A few were able to reach the relative safety of the large underground vaults. Your family was part of that group that entered Vault 13.
How did Bethesda treat this time far closer to the biggest disaster in human history? With selfies, drones, T-posing, dabbing, Rick and Morty.
Seems like it's gonna be a good game.
Those American short bus things for retards to put the developers in, and emotes without the courtesy of being as ironically repurposable as Fortnite's. Being used by immersion-breaking fuckwits, jumping around like weird kangaroos on crack. See what I mean? Sorry. My problem with this world, besides the total underlying tastelessness, things like West Tech putting chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs into super mutants, and sense of wasted opportunity aside, this game, to me, is just another one of Bethesda's assembly line Fallout games. Let me put up a checklist, see if everything checks out with that statement. Layman story chasing someone you don't care about.
She doesn't even have a face.
Or... oh no, wait, that's a Battlefield 5 ad. No interesting characters, well with underdeveloped factions, awfully mishandled ideas, enemies with no personality, straying away further from the spirit of the franchise, no immersion, bringing back the POS for no reason, nabbing shit from Black Isles cancelled Fallout 3, game being somehow behind the times while also feeling that it should have been worked on for 2 more years, game that is worse than the previous entry in the franchise and everything but graphics, which still aren't cutting edge. Let's see what I can tick. Yeah, that's surprising.
What you are seeing here is Bethesda's utter uncreativeness.
Now take some of the people that are regarded as the fathers of good Fallout. The awesome Josh Sawyer and Chris Avallone, for example. While they don't look traditionally attractive, and JK they're precious, they've worked with RPGs at least since the days of Black Isle back in the 90s. They have released their own mods, written Dungeons and Dragons campaigns or even entire comics, and could probably write something better than just dragons exist in Fallout now and turn people into splices. These guys are awesome, and I feel they should get to work on more games in the franchise, because they feel like they are good storytellers with good game design chops. Bethesda's people, on the other hand, are in my opinion slightly above average world designers, who do storytelling on the side. Look at how big this look at how big this map is, and then let's go to the Fallout wiki to see how many characters there are in it. Oh. She doesn't even have a face. Now you might say that even if this is just some dumb game Bethesda wanted to make with a Fallout skin, then they must have polished the gameplay to balance things out, right? Well, Mr. Naive Strawman that I just set up, get a load of this. This game feels horrible to play. Whereas Fallout 4 was a game working on a cycle going something like travel, quest, shoot, gather, trade, craft, level up, repeat. Here I can single out problems with every single one of those aspects, and they're pretty big. Traveling sucks because locations are populated exclusively by robots and fucking audio logs. Loot is tied to RNG and level caps. And also let's think about what the point was of making the world bigger than Fallout 4's, but then making fast travel less attractive by making the magical off-screen kangaroo-drawn fast travel chariot have a traveling fee. Oh. Questing invokes apathy because of the boring locations and the quests of which the ones that aren't daily and event quest gutter trash being boring and not affecting anything in the world. Basically imagine the quests that make up 90% of this game to be entirely envisioned by Preston Garvey, and then you get my point. Shooting is just the same thing as Fallout 4's, but without the corner shooting and more dysentery. The weapon selection is narrow and relies on artificial numbers and level caps, meaning that a fucking musket does more damage in one shot than an entire volley of fire with the glorious Kopfstahltastic MG42.
Fickt euch, Bethesda.
Gathering involves a whole lot of anguish due to being dependent on you having a lot of points and strength and certain perk cards that reduce weight, but curiously no return of the fast travel when over encumbered perk. Overall, trading is so bad that I have written a 900-word piece on why it sucks, which I'll link in the description. Crafting is a big whopper of terribleness. I hate that I have to scrap so many guns to get to the worthwhile mods, which just isn't possible with some. I mean, what is this? Focused barrels, aligned barrels, true barrels, false barrels, alternative fact barrels? Get out of here. I hate the menus that are clearly designed with controllers in mind, but are horrible to sort out with mouse and keyboard. I hate that you have to gather bullshit plans for everything that you want to build in your settlement, and the building as a whole is just so much less important than Bethesda's whole reclaim or rebuild the wasteland thing claimed it would be.
And the fallout has settled. You must rebuild. Not just walls, not just buildings, but hearts and minds. And ultimately, America itself.
Leveling has to be probably the biggest whopper though. I've already considered Fallout 4's leveling system to be shit, and Fallout76's is worse on top of that, because the RNG based perk count distribution was terrible and not very immersive. The perk counts were just too fiddly than any solid build and any proper Aryan RPG ever was. And the special system was one of the biggest annoyances that spits every character under level 30 in the face.
This month of December. It seems like every year the season grows increasingly busy, chaotic, and generally absurd. But when I play some good old Xmas Lemmings, I'm brought right back to those times as a kid playing DOS games in the corner of my...
Yeah, I just spent a minute fucking listening to an LGR video. This game takes so fucking long to load.
And now that I have laid that down, I can say that this game as a whole is shit, because you could do X, but here's Y to screw you over, is always around the corner from what I've seen. In fact, let's just use this phrase for a few of my points, yeah? You could fast travel, but here's the fee for the kangaroo chariot. You could repair your weapon with those of your enemies, but here's a requirement for resources for you to do that, because screwing a piece of one pistol onto another would just be too convenient for you. You could have straightforward and well implemented gun mods, but here's 1,000 crappy ones instead. You could just go around and have fun with the building thing and do a fortnight with your crazy builds. But let's turn that feature that we advertised so heavily into one of the most backwards and annoying things in the game. You could equip weapons that you have found immediately, but here let's attach a higher dumb fucking number so you have to store it away for later in your stash. You know, the one that is so restrictive that you had to double the capacity of it a month later. You could procure plenty of ammo to at least keep the decent shooting gameplay going, but here let's make ammo rare and non-scrappable so you constantly have to lug that 1000 plus stack of .38 ammo around that you are never going to use, can't use to build other useful ammo, and can't sell while running low on every other caliber of bullet. And if you have detected me implying that this game is contemptuous towards its own players, then you have guessed right. Because if I hadn't been committed to reach that level requirement for the MG42, if I hadn't been committed to give you an in-depth review, yeah, let's go with that, I would have fucking yeeted this game off of my computer long ago. Do I know what the game's intentions are and why it is so toxic and annoying to play? No. But I know I won't be inviting it to the official SergeantPantherYT Christmas party. Speaking of parties, I think I forgot to mention something. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the online component. Right, remember that. Supposedly the only thing that made Bethesda turn this into such a mess. How did that go, I wonder? Said the strawman that I just decided would suddenly reappear again.
It just worked.
The online component did nothing for me since I don't have any friends. And it's not like everybody has to necessarily work together. So usually you'll get every single player wander off into completely random directions. The only semi-decent experience that I've had with the online component beyond spamming shitty emotes when I got bored was when a player 90 levels higher than me, no joke, dropped a bag with his old gear for us to pick up. Love you for that, mate. Too bad I can't equip any of it since it's still too high level for me. Whew, that experience was definitely worth playing this offense to the Fallout name. You know, as well as the lag and the constant disconnects. Oh god, I just wait for Crobcat to edit this together with all the shitty fucking fuck-ups from this game. That's gonna be a nice. It's just gonna be a treat. Disconnect from server! Oh, fuck me! But as I'm writing this script, Bethesda tries to address some of the issues that, you know, you can't fix within a short amount of time, which could mean better player experience. But it definitely means that they deserve even more scorn. Now that might sound odd, but please allow me to ask another stupid question. What was the point of the beta if you are addressing glaring flaws in balancing now a month after the beta has ended? As others before me have pointed out, this game is not ready. It's terribly balanced, it feels unfair, and it doesn't have all the content that it should have. Which is even more sad when you realize that they seem to have held some things back that definitely should have been in Fallout 4. This cop car, for example.
There's a holdup in the Bronx, Brooklyn's broken out in fights.
Video game outlets have already gathered a lot of the problems, from the power armor bug making circulation to the animations for enemies only loading when you can already see them T-posing. There's a lot of terribleness here, and I can only hope that Bethesda fixes the bugs. You know, except the ones that obviously make the game better, you fucking morons. Okay, there are actually some things that the game does better. Like the fact that you can actually shoot through windows and some set dressing, which for all intents and purposes is better utilized, and in turn makes the world as a space more believable. And they have finally licensed some songs that I think should have been in a Fallout game, ever since they only licensed pre-1950s shit for Fallout 3. Okay, well actually it's just one. And yes, it's the coda, it's Mr. Sandman. And maybe don't fence me in.
Don't fence me in, I'm the roving kind, so if you don't mind, all that I can say is...
And that is really the only praise I can give this game though. It wastes your time, it's neither a good RPG, a good online or offline shooter, or a good MMO, and least of all, it's well designed mechanically. You don't feel unique, you have no customization, the world is flat as fuck, the weapons are piss weak, and you don't get any sense of progress. And if you even get the closest thing to immersion in this game, once you're done with the item fiddling, some fuck with voice chat comes along and it is going to ruin that too. Combine that with the frustration of buying a $60/euro game, day one, for review purposes, only to find out that even a studio that only a few years back was hailed as the ones going against the shady business practices of the mainstream game industry, and thusly had earned the respect of many people playing video games, are now just the same as every other shitty developer. Then you need not to wonder why this game has gotten the worst score out of any other Fallout game. Yeah, that isn't Brotherhood of Steel.
You know, the other game that also used the Fallout franchise and iconography, with a loose connection lore-wise, as nothing more than a vehicle for its shitty gameplay, which is both far removed from the core of the series, and also used the engine of a fantasy game that it was ultimately inferior to. I mean, wow. Talk about being doomed to repeat the past, huh, Todd?
But you know what the worst part is? They turned me into a fucking kangaroo! Just like... I thought I had it all together, but I was led astray. The day you walked away, you were the clock that was ticking in my heart. Changed my state of mind.
Ladies and gentlemen,
so hard to find.
We got him.
Yeah, I really didn't know how to end this video. Huh. Well, that was a thing. Thanks to the people who participated in the poll that decided the topic of this video. If you'd like to participate in future polls for videos, then consider subscribing. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks.